Slater calls Screech a twink, and if you don't know what that is, that's a gay slang term for a gay man in his late teens or early 20s with a slender build, literally no body hair and no facial hair. Which I don't think at the time that was like as well known. I feel like most people listening probably have heard that, like
100%,
as at least as an insult or as a gay slang term. But it's very jarring in the episode. I laughed.
Yeah, it comes.
I howled with laughter the first time I saw.
Bad TV police.
Yeah, all of them. They died hundreds of years ago.
Let's hear from you next.
Come on, sit down.
Let's wrap.
Look, I hate to rush you, Chief Henry, but I really have to go.
Come on, the bathroom's down the hall.
No, see, I have to finish this project so I can train for a track meet.
More reasonable after I flex some principal muscle.
There's a picture driving Miss Dizzy.
Not for trophies. They ran to preserve their way of life, which became harder and harder when more of them were getting killed in battle with the white man.
This is such a big country. Why couldn't the white man and the Indians get along?
Well, why can't the lion get along with the zebra? Why can't the Arabs get along with the Israelis? And why can't I get along with my ex-wife? Come here, Running Zach. Now, this is a symbol of your tribe.
Yes, hello. I'd like to speak to Chief Henry. Tell him it's Running Zach. What?
When I wake up in the morning and the alarm gets out of warning, I don't think I'll ever make it on time. By the time I grab my books and I give myself a look, I'm at the corner just in time to see the bus fly by. It's alright, 'cause I'm saved by the bell. If the teacher pops a test, I know I'm in a mess, and my dog ate all my homework last night. Riding low in my
Hello, ladies and gentlemen. I am Kevin from My Movies Better.
I'm Dylan, also
And-
from My Movies
yes,
Better.
And we are here for a special bonus side special episode I'm going to call Bad TV Police. Wee, wee, wee. We are,
It's definitely bad
Yes.
TV.
we
That's
are
for sure.
Detective Kevin and Dylan are on the case to find all the worst episodes of TV shows that you've ever seen. And so we have decided to start with one of the worst television episodes ever conceived, written, created, and shot in the history of mankind, from one of the worst shows ever conceived, written, and shot from the history of mankind. That's right, it is the season 3 episode of Saved by the Bell, Running Zach. It is the 13th episode of, actually, it's the 13th episode of season 2. On
Right.
Hulu,
Yeah.
it's under season 3, but
That's probably why I couldn't find it. I
Right.
was like, damn, did they scrub this episode off Hulu?
no, I know why they did it this way. So, this show wasn't originally called Saved by the Bell. Saved by the Bell
Right.
was a show that originally started out being called Good Morning, Miss Bliss. And it was about Zach's teacher, Miss Bliss. And Zach was like not the antagonist, I guess, but he was like the secondary, like, supporting main to her. You know, it was like she was the main character and Zach was like the main character of the students.
Right.
And the show lasted one season and then it was canceled and reworked by taking Belding, Zach, Lisa, Screech, I think that's about it, moving them to California and then adding Slater and Jesse and moving the show on from there. So the first season of the show is actually a different show. But then after Saved by the Bell was over, when they put it into reruns, whatever they call it, syndication, they added new titles, the Saved by the Bell titles, to the Miss
Yeah.
Bliss episodes, and had a thing with the guy who played Zach at the beginning being like, "Oh, this was a different show," blah blah blah. And, like,
Honestly,
giving
it
you, like,
makes
a rundown.
sense for them to, because like if they had that content anyways to like make some money off of it, get some use out of it, like
Right,
you might as well
right.
not just put that in the ether.
Yeah, exactly.
One truth prevails.
So this episode was released on the 24th of November, 1990 in the United States.
Right around Thanksgiving, probably.
Yep.
That
Interestingly
makes
enough,
sense.
yes.
I didn't even realize
Right.
that.
As you guys, if you have not watched this, by the way, it is available on Hulu, as we said, and I would suggest you don't have to watch it. We're gonna go through it all, but if you want to, you can. It is available. The episode was written by Jeffrey J. Sachs, and it was directed by Don Barnhart.
So, the whole episode is the beginning of it is Zach's class is doing like a family heritage presentation.
like a
every student
heritage
digs into
project.
like a little bit of their heritage, and they do a presentation on it. And Zach fails it. And he obviously is like the star of the track team, and unless he can make up his project and do it right, he's off the track team, and they have a big track meet against Valley.
Yes,
it's coming.
they're bitter rivals,
Yeah, they're
Valley.
big school rival. It's a huge deal for them, and unless he makes it up, he can't compete in the track meet. His teacher, Miss Wentworth, arranges a tutor for Zach named Chief Henry, who happens to be a Native American. Zach soon learns about his Native American heritage because that is his whole basis of his project. But he does not feel like going to the upcoming track rally when tragedy strikes.
Yes.
It gets very
Yes.
sad. It gets very sad. We talked about Kevin, you mentioned the cast.
Yeah,
all
I
the
mean, for the most part,
characters,
people know the cast, but
Yeah,
just
I mean,
run it
I
down
personally,
real
I'm not
quick.
familiar with a lot of the people, but Mark Paul Gosselaar is Zach. Mario Lopez is Slater. Dustin Diamond is Screech. Tiffany Tyson. Tyson?
Yeah, I think it's Tyson, yeah.
She's Kelly Kapowski. Elizabeth Berkley is Jessie, who we've talked about before on the actual pod.
About Showgirls, yes.
Which is a wild thing to watch. Like, I didn't even put two and two together.
Right.
Lark Voorhees. Oh,
Yeah, like Jason.
Excuse me. Is Lisa Turtle. Dennis Haskin is Mr. Richard Belding. And Carol Lawrence is the teacher, Miss Wentworth. And it is guest starring Del Birdie as Chief Henry.
Chief Henry, our surfing, boogie boarding rather.
Yes,
our boogie boarding,
yes.
which we'll get back to.
He's incredible.
Native American chief. So, this actually came out the same day as the TV Guide for that week. Yes, November 24th.
Oh, God.
So I have it for us here. You can look it up online if you want. It is the November 24th, 1990 TV Guide.
Yeah, it's 75 cents.
Yeah, well, look at the cover a little bit here. It looks like Dynasty. That show was really big at the time.
Yeah, Cosby Show. Sheesh.
Yep. We have an interview with Linda Evans about her life after Dynasty.
Were you just about to say Linda Ellerby?
No, I wasn't. But Linda Ellerby, what was that? Nick?
I think she was like a
Nick News. Or
Yeah.
But it also has, as you said, a interview with Malcolm Jamal Warner of what he learned growing up on Cosby and America's biggest beefs about TV.
Right.
Remember when people actually? I used to look at the TV guides a lot when I was
yeah,
like in the
like
line at
coffee table
Shaw's.
Learners, yeah, exactly.
So we had some notable events in the television world. One in particular that's really important to me, but we'll get to that in 1 second. The first one is on November 10th, Chris Farley, Tim Meadows, Chris Rock, Adam Sandler, Rob Schneider, Julia Sweeney, I bet you can guess where this is going, all joined the cast of Saturday Night Live. So that was
fucking strong cast.
And would soon be joined by Dana, or maybe actually Dana and Mike already been there.
I think they were already on.
Yeah, but
at that point,
that is definitely, it's like the second golden age after
the revival, like big revival of people
and
really giving a shit about SNL.
Right,
that springboarded like a lot of those people's careers.
All of them, man, all of it. Like literally everybody I just mentioned.
Yeah, pretty much like launched off.
Yeah, I mean maybe Tim Meadows and Julia Sweeney to a lesser extent than the other ones, but definitely. I mean, Chris Farley obviously, and he passed away. But Chris Rock and Adam Sandler still going strong today.
Fuck Rob Schneider. But
however, 2 days before this episode came out, one of the most important things, an important date in American
of course you
history,
found a way to fucking tie this.
I was so excited when I found this. I was like, oh my God, that's crazy. November 22nd, 1990, the world was introduced to an absolute dynamo of a man. Mark Calloway is his name. He made his debut with the World Wrestling Federation, or the WWF, at the 4th annual Survivor Series pay-per-view, and you may know him better as The Undertaker.
Dead man walking.
Rolling, 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 rolling. Keep rolling, 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 rolling. Keep rolling, rolling.
That's right. God damn it, pal. I need a.
No,
I need
seriously,
a.
that's awesome. Undertaker, I
Yeah.
feel like people who don't even know what wrestling is,
Right,
or don't
right.
watch wrestling at all, know
I
the
need a-
Undertaker. That's like a generational.
He's a Western
character.
mortician, pal.
It's a generational character, so that's cool.
Oh yeah, and he's
Came
still
out
still
2 days
wrestling
before
today.
a very
yeah.
shitty episode. Of
Exactly.
television.
In fact, The Undertaker just wrestled a match last Thursday in Saudi Arabia and beat AJ Styles in that match. So he is still wrestling to this day, going strong. Probably I think the only other guy, Goldust, aka Dustin Rhodes, is pretty much the only other guy who's been wrestling as long as him and like came up at the same
Goldust.
time.
Dude, the other,
yeah.
Oh my! I don't
Yeah,
even
he's
talk,
still
we're not
re-
even gonna
I
talk
know,
about
I know,
it.
we're
We're not
gonna-
gonna talk about it.
yes.
Sorry, we're gonna.
But
we're
yes,
gonna
so
diverge
the
from
world met The Undertaker.
that. Yeah, which is cool. There's some cool, between TV and movies and stuff. Obviously, around that time, things are happening. Leading up to the holiday season is always a pretty busy time for new movies and TV. Premiered shows around that time. And November 2nd, Over My Dead Body premiered. And November 3rd, so was it the NBA, NBC gained rights to the NBA?
No,
Is that-
that's when the NBA on NBC,
Yeah.
that show started.
Oh, okay,
So
cool.
They probably already showing NBA games, but that's when
Right,
they
right.
started using that.
That
like,
title,
Yeah,
yeah,
and the John Tesh song, which
Right.
you,
Da-da-da-da-da.
you listeners will be hearing
Basketball.
it. Yeah, exactly. Yeah, which is called, what is it called?
Round Ball Rock.
Round Ball Rock.
Yeah. What a fucking jam.
So good.
Shows that ended around that time. Charles in Charge ended. Fucking Pee Wee's Playhouse ended on November 17th. Chippendale Rescue Rangers ended. It.
Yeah, which makes more sense because that was a TV miniseries which
Yeah.
had a definite ending.
Right,
but
right,
yeah,
right.
so
Exactly,
it
but
started
still.
in 1990 and it ended in
Yeah.
1990.
DuckTales, though.
Yep.
Not
DuckTales
long after
also.
the episode premiered. For movies, 3 Men and a Little Lady came out.
Yes, this is so November 24th.
Yeah, November 21st. That
Sorry,
one
sorry.
Yeah, it's all good. November 21st, that one came out. Hidden Agenda and Predator 2
Yep.
came out. Cool. And November 23rd, Mr. and Miss Bridge came out. Mr. and Mrs. Bridge. And then November 30th, Misery came out, which
Misery,
I've never
yeah.
seen.
Ooh, it's really good.
Yeah, never seen
Yeah,
it.
it's probably. I'm like, all right, so like, I'm not hating on Stephen King at all, but he's definitely not my cup of tea when it comes to horror. I think there's way scarier stuff.
Yeah.
However, like, I love The Shining, obviously, but
Yeah.
that's more because of Stanley Kubrick. Misery is the one that I really like by
Yeah.
him. I think it's his like. That I mean, I'm a big fan of like some of his other stuff, like Christine. Weirdly, I really like Christine, but like out of his stuff that's more grounded in reality, and less like sort of that supernatural stuff that he does. Misery is just like straight up horrifying, and it lacks what he always seems to like want to be like. And then there was an evil demon that was doing everything, and you're like, oh, come on,
Yeah.
really?
Right,
You know,
right.
it's like. I like it because that's not what's going on, you know,
Right,
and
right.
it's so self-referential because he wrote it about an actual fan that he had who he essentially it's like a writing exercise in him wondering about if that fan it was like a fan who was getting like to stalkery levels and
shit.
was a female as well.
Dear Stephen King,
yeah.
I wrote you, but you
Someone,
still ain't calling.
basically, yes, it's Stephen King Stan. Basically, but yeah, so it's definitely more like grounded in his fear, I think, than in him trying to make people scared. And
Right,
that's,
right.
That's why it works. So
Okay.
well. So
Okay,
I
I'll have
definitely
to check it out.
Yeah,
I
you
mean,
gotta see it.
I'm indifferent on Stephen King.
You got to see it at least for Kathy Bates's fantastic Oscar-winning performance.
Okay.
you know,
Oscar winning, actress?
Oh yeah,
That's
yeah,
the actress?
Kathy Bates.
No shit.
Yeah. Oh
Wow,
yeah.
cool.
Kathy
Fuck.
Bates and James Caan.
No shit.
In video games, we had a lot because it's the 1990s. This year, Metal Gear Solid 2 Solid Snake, which is the one that was not made by Kojima, came out, as well as Fire Emblem Shadow Dragon and the Blade of Light, Dr. Mario, and Super Mario World. In fact, on November 21st, Nintendo released Super Mario World and F-Zero in Japan as launch titles for the Super Famicom. And Super Mario World is what introduced Yoshi, and F-Zero introduced Captain Falcon.
Oh, my boy.
Yes, and that would follow, I think, by the beginning of the next year, or perhaps by the next summer, it would reach American shores. Because I know we actually covered in one of the episodes when the Super Nintendo came out.
Yeah, and that was huge.
Yeah, and that's the Super Famicom is the Japanese version.
Right,
That's all
right.
it is. It's a
Okay.
Japanese Super Nintendo.
Okay.
You know, basically. We also had some great toys around this time, including the Tamagotchi, which was hot at this time. Are you too young for the Tamagotchi?
No, dude.
Okay.
I remember Tamagotchis.
Tamagotchi was awesome.
Yeah.
Also, moon shoes were real big then.
Dude, moon shoes.
Mhm.
Moon shoes. That jingle is like melted in my brain as a fucking child.
Exactly.
Kids just bouncing around.
Right? Well, we just covered 1990 last week, I believe, didn't we?
When we did Falling Down.
Oh, yeah, it was a couple episodes
a
ago.
couple episodes ago.
Yeah, so I know we
Yeah.
mentioned Nintendo 64 came out
we were
that
pretty
year.
Close to that. Yeah.
American Girl dolls. Here's a good one for our latest episode, which you can listen to at your leisure on Talking Animal Movies. Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles. Everything.
Yeah.
Literally everything. And I'm
Yeah.
not going to go into it because we will have and has talked about it
Yeah,
on that
yeah.
episode.
Not
so-
to like promote something that isn't doing
Yeah.
shit for us, but if we talked about it before on the podcast too, that show, The Toys That Made Us.
Yes.
There is in the new season. There's a great episode that's all about Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles.
Turtle
And if you're into any of that stuff, you have to watch that
Hell
episode.
yeah.
It's so cool. Their whole come up story.
Yes. And rounding out our toys, we have the Easy Bake Oven, the ever living Furby, and one that I really remember because my sister had this, and she used to try to hit me with it when I'd like give her shit.
Dude.
Yeah, no, like while it was still on her leg, the Skip It.
Yeah, that was the one you put on your. It was like you put it on your ankle and like
Yep.
jump over.
And you'd like jump over. It was like a one-legged like skipper thing.
yeah,
Oh,
exactly.
And it was heavy as fuck. And
Yeah,
she
what
tried
a
to
fucking weapon
She tried to
that is.
whack me in the leg with it. You know.
Jesus Christ.
Well, I mean, I was being a dick
you in
to
the
her.
shin,
you
like-
know, I was being an older brother to
Oh, of
her.
course,
You
yeah.
know,
You
like
probably deserved it.
Yeah, definitely deserved it. Definitely.
Oh my god.
So.
Give you a quick little historical background too, aside from media and stuff. Just kind of life
Yeah,
around
what happened
life around
that
the
week?
time.
What was going on in 1990?
That week. So November 19th through the 21st of 1994. The leaders of Canada, the United States, and 32 European states met in Paris to formally mark the end of the Cold War.
It's funny that when you read that because it kind of sounds like if you didn't know that like Canada and the United States were the ones who were having a Cold War. It's
Yeah.
like, where's Russia?
Right,
they weren't invited.
Yeah, right. No. On November 29th, Gulf War, the United Nations Security Council passes UN Security Council Resolution 678, authorizing military intervention in Iraq if that state does not withdraw its forces from Kuwait and free all foreign hostages by Tuesday, January 15th, 1991.
Spoiler alert, they didn't.
Yeah.
Which is so this is like almost the beginning of the Gulf War. Gulf War was about to begin.
Oh, I said 94 before I meant 1990.
Yes, it was 1990. Yes.
By the way.
Yeah.
Right,
Or no, it was 1991 is what you said.
Well, I think whatever I said before, I fucked up.
Okay, gotcha.
So
gotcha.
just
Yes,
letting
this
you
is
guys know that.
1990.
Yeah, exactly. And then November 13th, the first known web page was written.
Yep.
That's huge.
Exactly.
We wouldn't be here if it wasn't for web pages.
We also had a couple of interesting births, not too many, just two. On November 24th, Dodie Smith, a English novelist and playwright, was born. And probably better known, also on November 24th, 1990, Sarah Hyland, who plays the daughter in Modern Family and was also in the Triple H starring film that we covered in the first season of My Movie's Better, The Chaperone.
Oh, shit.
Yeah, so...
I forgot about that movie.
Yep.
Was that WWE Films? too?
It was yes, it
Yeah,
was.
yeah.
Yeah,
God,
it's like
awesome.
he Triple H is a dad, and he was just got out of jail and is estranged from his ex-wife and or I think it's still his wife. I think they're still married, but they're like separated. But anyway, and he sneaks onto the bus to be her chaperone on the trip, and then proves his like goodness and helps her and stuff. It's actually not a terrible movie. It's just like script wise or idea wise, it's just
Right.
sadly Tripp's works better as a villain than anything else. It's tough to envision him, even though he is actually a father of I think 3 daughters. It's hard to envision him as like a daughter dad. So it's kind of a weird. It's a weird
movie with like Batista that just came out where he's
Struber.
Yeah.
I haven't seen it. No.
Like that's gotta be a weird one.
That one's interesting. I guess it's like about
He's like an
Khalil Nimjani is like a taxi or Uber driver. Uber Struber. Yeah, and then he picks up Batista, who I guess is like a cop,
some sort of secret agent,
super cop.
something.
Yeah, super
but he's,
agent.
Like, got this daughter.
Yeah, he's
that,
he's essentially the Rock from the Fast and the Furious. Like,
yeah, exactly.
I guess I don't know.
Like you're a big bulky wrestler.
Right. Anyway, we might as well talk about this episode.
Yeah.
now.
So like we dug in like when we gave you the synopsis briefly. You know, so like I said, it's a heritage project in class. You know, he's got to like learn about his heritage. Zach finds like this picture of this Native American in his house, and that's like the only lead he has going into his project.
And that it's his grandfather, I think they say. His great-grandfather.
I think his great-grandfather. But like obviously for a typical television jock that they build this character up to be, he doesn't do his project and doesn't prioritize it at all.
Right.
And just kind of tries to half-ass his way through it.
To explain
and has Screech do this like highly fucking offensive bit at the beginning, like a little bit of paint on his face. He's making this fucking weird gesture, and he's got this axe.
Yeah, he's holding his
call him like Kimosabi.
He's
and,
like holding his mouth off to the side. Yeah, it's if you've ever seen Peter Pan, it's like essentially what the Native Americans, like Tiger Lily's dad and the other natives, look like in Peter Pan. Like it's like the Washington Redskins logo, like mixed with the Cleveland Indians logo. Like it's as offensive as you can possibly get.
Cookie cutter offensive, fucking white people.
And like even like Zach like takes some like makeup and draws like war paint on his face, and then he gives him a toy tomahawk, which then Screech proceeds to, with his amazing strength, he hits an apple with it, and it splits perfectly in two. And no one is like surprised by that, I guess, at all. Screech, actually, I gotta just point out, Screech really carries this show.
Right.
Honestly, his not that all his jokes land, because he has quite a few really offensive jokes in this one as well, but his delivery of every one of his dumb, like, oh, I didn't understand this lines is really, really good. And it always gets me, even when the joke isn't that funny. Like when he's like, oh, you stole, remember, that's not, you didn't run that fast since the time you stole that girl's underwear or something, or bathing suit, they actually say. But like, it's just like his delivery of it is so genuine that it works in a weird way.
Yeah, and I guess like I'll say this now before we dig a little bit more into the episode, where a big problematic part is like the clear lack of proper
nuance.
Yeah, and like lack of appropriate representation of natives.
Well, we skipped over the fact that in that scene it does start out with, so Lisa gives a presentation.
That's what I was about to say. Yeah. So like,
about her family, and Lisa is African American, and so hers is obviously about slavery. And then they called Jesse up, and Jesse's like, my family did ships. This is all they did shipping. That's it. Bye. Okay, I'm done.
Yeah. And so like they somehow were like, like we're writing this episode that's already pretty problematic about
how can we make it more offensive?
They're like, let's throw something else in the fire. And so like Lisa's talking about her family like escaping through the Underground Railroad.
I'm sorry, you mean like, the original Soul Train, as she calls it? Another line that you're just like, oh.
Yeah, it's called the original fucking Soul Train.
Yeah.
My family calls this Underground Railroad the original Soul Train. The original Soul Train.
The original Soul Train.
Thank you.
And then they're like, all right, let's double down on this by having Jessie come up, and her family were slave traders. And then, so as aside from the whole Zach trying to figure out how to not be so fucking racist about his Native American thing, you have Jessie just spending the whole episode apologizing to Lisa about her ancestors being slave owners, and like Lisa the whole time is like, shut up.
Yeah, I don't care. Right.
Fuck off. Like, stop doing this. And Jessie just keeps shoving it down your throat. And I'm watching it like, this is the most like this is arguably more cringy than every other
it
fucking
is.
cringy thing that's happening.
It's
you know?
definitely. I think honestly, it because it all like sort of comes to that moment where she literally she says the thing about I'll carry your bags, which is just like, oh my God, that's so racist. But also, and even not that she's not even that it's like she's flipping that thing.
Yeah,
you know,
yeah.
like the whole and like I feel like if I have to explain it to you, that like you need to just go on Google and research a little bit more about racism, why that's racist to be like a joke about a black person carrying bags, even though they've flipped it so that's her being the one, I'll carry your bags. It's just ooh. But also, then she doesn't even finish there. She also then goes, "Take my burden," which is an obvious reference to the Rudyard Kipling white man's burden. It's just like these writers are on another level here of like not understanding, because the rest of the episode, like we were saying, we were just watching it. The rest of the episode's theme is really about like accepting.
Discovering pride in our background is part of what our assignment is all about.
I think it's about accepting who you are and accepting that like being okay with who you are, and that fits in a ham-handed way, because it's like, Jesse, you need to accept that your family were slave traders, and that Lisa's doesn't blame you for that. You need to get over your
like,
white guilt or whatever.
Yeah.
Right?
Dude,
So it
what
fits in the
fuck?
theme, but it's so unnecessary. It feels like they were like, oh, well, Lisa's black, so we got to do something there, right? You know,
It's like they. I mean, and I get like every sitcom does that, where they have like a side plot, like a minuscule, like not important side plot that kind of is just something to buffer the rest of the show. Excuse me.
yeah, they got to get it to that 30 minutes.
Well, yeah, exactly. But like
22.
why did it have to be so controversial and so heavy in already a controversial and heavy episode?
Exactly.
You know, like I can't imagine that on a big fucking network show like this, that they were sitting at a fucking round table meeting and not one person was like, maybe not. Like,
No, I mean, it was
maybe-
1990, man. They were all like, no, this is totally progressive.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, a bunch of like 50-something-year-old white dudes
So-
were sitting around a
so-
table like, yeah, this is a good plot point.
So we've talked for so long, we haven't even really got to Chief Henry. So we definitely got to
let's
get to
dig
him
into this
now.
guy
So
for a little
basically,
bit.
yeah. So we went over all that. They go through their presentations, and the teacher is like, Zach, come on. That's
Yeah,
bullshit.
we mentioned how she sent him to a tutor.
Yeah,
So that is
yeah.
Chief Henry.
So she's like, here, go see my friend, my boogie boarding Native American
Motorcycle
yeah,
riding limousine.
yeah, son of a gun. Chief Henry, go talk to him. He's Native American. He can help you with your project. He's like, all right. Zach's like, okay. So Zach goes over, and so yes, as we said, Chief Henry, he's wearing a biker vest. Not when you first see him, but later when you see him, he does have a Harley Davidson tank top.
Yeah.
Or cutoff shirt, maybe.
Yeah, most likely a cutoff shirt.
He's throwing up chacos like crazy. He's a big surfer dude. He's got the long gray hair, right? And like right when Zach comes in, he's like, "Hey, what's up, man?" Like he totally roommates with Jerry Garcia. He's like, he's a weird dude. And
Hi, I'm Zach Morris from Miss Wentworth's class.
Oh, the kid who thinks he's part Indian. Hey, with that blonde hair, you must be from some Malibu surfing tribe. Hang 10, dude.
I'm supposed to be an Indian. Why are you wearing a Dodger hat?
Well, because a Raider helmet's too hot. Where's that picture you're going to give me?
he lives in like, it looks like he like lives in his machine shop.
Yeah.
Like right when you first see him, he's like working at like a workbench, but he's got a couch right behind it, and all his
Yeah.
clothes are up in the corner. Like he like lives in like a one-room like beach house. I'm guessing.
Yeah, definitely.
Chief Henry,
Drifter.
He's a exactly.
Yeah.
He's definitely drifting, man. And he's friends with teachers. Like he's got a very strange story. I very much want to know what's going on with Chief Henry
Yeah.
from the second I
Pretty
see
cool
him.
character.
Right, he just allows teenage boys into his one-room house.
That's pretty uncool.
yeah.
But
Yeah.
it's on the basis of tutoring. It was an arranged.
Right.
It was an arranged meeting. You know.
Now, you're not going to find any of these stories in a book. See, your great-great-great-grandfather was a warrior in the Nez Perce tribe under the mighty Chief Joseph. He was a brave man.
What was his name?
Whispering Wind. Like the wind, his presence was strongly felt, but seldom heard. Now, like you, Running Zach,
Chris
We don't know where this house is.
Right.
It could be attached to the school.
You know, when
like,
Zach came in, Chris Hansen didn't also come in from another room, so like
Right,
that
so
was a
he's
good
probably
sign.
in the
yeah,
clear.
yeah,
He's probably
good
in the
there.
clear.
He did. Yeah, gotta say, Chief Henry didn't set up the meeting, so that's true.
Right, that's what I'm saying. It was
God.
all justified.
Yeah, so like Chief Henry's basically like, cause Zach right away he's like, "Why are you wearing an LA Dodgers hat?
Right,
You're a
yeah,
Native
yeah,
American."
yeah.
And Chief Henry has a great response. He's like, "Cause an Oakland Raiders helmet was like too ostentatious, basically." You know, I gotta say, I like the attempt. You know, it's like good try,
Yeah.
but you did airball the
Yeah,
landing
so
on
throughout
this one.
episode, like we talked about that a few minutes ago when we were watching it. It's like after all this happens with his Chief Henry meetings, like so basically when he goes and tutors with Chief Henry, he basically just gives him a bunch of books and has him study his heritage.
heritage, yeah.
And then then Zach goes and does the presentation and does a very good job.
Right,
Aside
'cause
from the
he actually finds his
ancestor in a book.
in
Yeah,
the photo.
that
Yeah,
picture.
the same photo.
Yeah. So like he, if you watch the scene where he like does his second presentation, if you like watch it with your eyes closed,
It's really good.
It's fine because we talked about it, how it's just basically a synopsis out of a textbook that is him, describing about how like his family's heritage is this Native American tribe that lived on this plot of land in the United States that they were what's the word I'm looking for? They were basically forcibly removed.
Yeah, well,
obviously,
he,
you know what I mean.
he gives the actual history of the Nez Perce tribe
Right.
and Chief Joseph, which
Right.
is Chief Joseph's famous surrender and I will not fight speech and
Yeah,
stuff,
those are
which
very
is like
true, like-
right, which has kind of become like a part of rewriting of America's history in regards to the Native Americans.
Yeah,
too. Like,
I mean, of course they're gonna glorify that story.
well, yeah,
you
they
know?
glorified Chief Joseph's giving up, but didn't really look deeper into what that speech is saying. Is that he's saying like, look, like fighting is useless because you've killed everybody. Like,
Exactly,
like
exactly.
why would
Like,
I
why would
fight
we
just to
continue to
die?
fight this? Yeah.
Just so that I can die while these children and old people die around
Right.
me. Like that's what he's really saying. But they play it off as it's like, oh no, it's a pro-American thing.
Yeah. So like Zach's speech is fine during that, but rewind the scene.
And watch it with your eyes
Open
open.
your eyes,
Yeah.
and he walks into class in full fucking like headdress,
Regalia.
full outfit, face like war paint, everything, and it is so bad.
Right.
And even the class like kind of gasps when he walks in the room.
Oh yeah, I will
Like,
say that's the thing I do like about it.
He
Is
walks
that
in and the whole class is like, oh
in
god.
the show, in the show's defense, the students in class are like, oh great, Zach,
Right.
he's just they're like he's doubled down on his racism
Yeah,
and stereotypes. We also didn't. Well, actually, no, we'll keep going because I'm gonna mention.
Well,
it
I
in a
was gonna
sec.
say, so like he does that, and like then obviously like the class is paying attention, they're invested, and they get informed, and he passes the thing. Chief Henry passes away.
Wait. Before we get to that, yes, he does. He does immediately receive a phone call that Chief Henry's
Like
dead.
literally while he's in
While he's in the garb
on a payphone in
Well, you know,
school.
He
like,
calls because he's on a payphone. So he calls to call Chief Henry, and he's like, "Oh, what?" So I guess Jerry picked up the phone. He's like, "Yeah, man, he's fucking
Chris
dead."
Hansen picked
yeah,
up the
Chris Hansen. I'm sorry, son, but you're actually. I'm here to tell you, you're actually in luck.
Oh my God.
So. But we missed something else important I wanted to bring up. But I wanted you to finish talking about Zach's presentation because you also have to remember. So Zach receives an A. You find that out much later, which in another scene, which we'll get to after this. But Zach, the teacher's happy with the presentation, and Zach does give. I'll say he gives a heartfelt and serious presentation.
100%.
One of the things we skipped is that right before Zach's presentation, Screech gives his presentation.
Oh yeah, fuck.
Which is him doing like, hello, I'm an Italian man.
He's
Like,
basically just
he
hitting on
was-
his entire
Yes.
female class and his teacher.
And it's the
whole
most
time.
stereotypical Italian
Yeah,
thing
it's
ever.
crazy.
Buonasera. Oh, that means good afternoon.
I am the great grandson of Luigi Paolelli, the dashing and debonair Italian lover and spy. Women worldwide found him irresistible. I will demonstrate his charm. Buongiorno, baby.
Arrivederci, dorky.
The Paolelli technique became legendary. Women could not control themselves. Behold. Signorina, I love you madly.
Get lost.
Hey, I'll leave a trail of breadcrumbs so you can find me, eh?
To the point where the teacher starts doing the stereotype when she's like, "You get an A" at the end. And does
Well,
like
that's
a big
another thing too.
flourish.
Is like I feel like the teacher doesn't get enough flack. We didn't give her enough flack.
Yeah.
Because even earlier when like he refers to in his first attempt at a presentation where he bombs it.
Yep.
He refers to Screech as like Kimosabe or whatever.
Yeah.
And then the teacher refers to Zach
As
as
Kimosabe.
Kimosabe.
Yeah,
It's like,
exactly.
whoa. And then the same thing with like when Screech does his presentation. He's like, "What's on my grade?" And she's like, "Hey." And it's like, holy fuck.
It's like, wait a minute, you wanted him to not give like a super dumb stereotypical, but like that's
Yeah,
literally
she
what
said
Screech did.
You disrespected your ancestors or whatever.
Exactly.
It's like you said you called him Kimosabe and then said he disrespected his ancestors. It's like,
And
what the fuck are you doing?
And so like if we're like Screech obviously is not a suave customer, but his whole presentation is about how his ancestors were like the suavest guys ever, and then he
Right,
proceeds to
Just
fail
botch it.
trying to like be suave with the girls in
Yeah.
class,
Except the teacher.
which shows to me that like he
She
did
gets
this
a hand
he did the
smooch.
same thing Zach did. He just made some bullshit up.
And he gets an
You know,
A.
because there's even a thing, and this is actually going into another episode, and this is actually an episode that I watched because I did watch almost all of the first season.
Oh, boy.
Again, rewind your brains back. The first season is a different show. So in one of the episodes of Good Morning Miss Bliss, there was a whole storyline where Screech had to do this thing, and he was afraid that his family would like think he was lame if they found out he was a huge nerd, basically. Like when he thought that like it was like parent teacher night or something, and he was like, "Oh no, my family's gonna come here and they're gonna see that like I'm the biggest nerd in school, not that I'm like super cool." So he tried to like fix everything so that like he told his parents he was like the captain of the football team, the prom king, like everything.
Yeah.
And then they find out that he's not, and it's because Screech tells them. And the teacher's like, "Great job, Screech." Like you, and he's like, "Yeah, my parents like don't. My dad actually told me that he's just like me." So he's even in that episode, it's showing that Screech's whole family line is like nerds.
Right,
Like
yeah.
and that, but
a long
but
line
right, but
of Screeches.
for some reason now his family are these suave Italian, like they were. I think he was like a spy too. It's almost like a James Bond thing that he was doing. But yeah, so big aside on that, to get back to what we were talking about, Zach finds out that Chief Henry has died. Now, this brings me to my most important point of the whole episode. So another thing that we kind of glossed over is that, so he went and visited Chief Henry, he did some other shit, and then he went back to visit Chief Henry again. And the last time that we saw Chief Henry, when the scene where Chief Henry's talking about like, "Hey, why don't the Arabs and the Israelis get over?
Yeah.
Get along with each other."
My
Yeah.
ex-wife get along?
Exactly. He leaves with his trusty boogie board strapped over his shoulder, going out to do some like he's gonna go catch some waves, and then we never see him again. The next time we hear from him, it's when Zach makes the phone call. So my guess is that he died boogie boarding. He died doing what he loved.
He's such a rad dude that I want that for him.
Right?
I want that
Me
for him.
too. And just that really stuck out to me. We're watching this time. I was like, "Oh my God, is that the last time you
Dude,
see him?"
guys
It
boogie
is.
boarding in a Harley Davidson rip-off shirt with a
Yep.
fucking leather vest on. Like,
But
talking
it
about
actually,
cowabunga.
right.
Jesus.
It actually isn't the last time we see him, though. But we'll get to that in a sec. So Zach is distraught. He's very sad. And in fact, he's so sad that when Kelly Kapowski's like, "Zach, is there anything that I could do for you?" as she rubs her chest. Like, "Zach, anything? Like at all? Like maybe, like anything?" And Zach's like, "No! There's nothing you can fucking do." It's such, like, it's such,
Roll.
I like had to keep watching it back when I watched it because I was like, oh my god, his reaction is so uncalled for
Dude,
to her.
yeah.
She's literally
He's
can
like,
I just
I don't know.
She's like,
No.
I'm joking. She's not being like super hoary or something, but she is like being like, can I comfort you? Like legitimately, can I comfort you? And he's like, no. And it's jarring. It's like, Zach, what is
Yeah,
your
it's like, dude,
this is
chill
Kelly
the fuck
Kapowski we're
out,
talking
bro,
about.
yeah.
Not like it's not like Jesse, you know.
Right, yeah.
But
Give it a fucking
so
rest, bro.
so as time goes on, he's like, you know what? I'm not even gonna run tomorrow. That's it. I'm not running in the track meet. Which brings you back to remember that that's the whole reason that this is important is that Zach is the man in the miles, so he's gonna win them the track meet when he runs, and now he's not gonna run.
Right.
So then hard cut to Zach in bed, tossing and turning, and then
Hey, sleeping Zach, wake up.
What? Chief Henry, you're alive?
No, I'm still dead. And you know what? Life is a lot less stressful when you're dead.
Why'd you have to die?
They don't give you much choice up there.
Am I dead too?
Oh, you're alive. I'm just here in your dream.
Well, hey, I never got to tell you how my class presentation went today.
I was watching. You got an A. Hey, are you ready for the big meet tomorrow?
and fucking the ghost of the fucking guy is in his bedroom.
In like a BG's white suit, like
BG's white.
literally looking like Barry Gibb with like a bolo tie.
Yes,
on.
it's
like,
fucking gorgeous.
It's crazy.
It's
And
amazing.
So he's like sitting there basically like telling Zach that he's like, stop being a little bitch. and
Yeah.
go run
Wait.
in the thing.
I don't want to miss this. So first of all, he says, sleeping Zach.
Yes, yeah, because he calls
Which-
him running Zach.
right,
We didn't really
right.
say that, but like, he calls him running Zach.
The reason that the episode's called Running Zach is that he called him Running Zach. That's his Native American name, I
Yeah,
guess.
which is a fucking.
But then,
that's
then
a
he
whirlwind
opened,
in
yeah,
its own.
and he opened up a whole new world to me by calling him Sleeping Zach, which really was obviously just for that one joke.
Yeah.
But like, it's just wait a minute. So like, you have different names when you're asleep, like
Different
but yeah,
state of mind.
he's like Zach.
Oh
hey
shit!
man,
It's blackout drunk.
yeah. He's like, bro, heaven is fantastic. By the way, I'm having a great time. This is like. Being dead is fantastic, and Zach's like, "Am I dead?"
Yeah,
And
he
he's
was like,
"No."
"Oh, it's a lot less stress." Whatever. It's like, whoa,
Right?
It's kind of morbid
And-
for like a kid show.
Right, and then he's just like casually, he's like, "Hey, so you excited for the big track meet tomorrow?" Zach's like, "I'm not gonna run, man." And Chief Henry's like, "You got to. Hey, we got to wrap this episode up. By the way, we're getting to almost 22 minutes. So here's a headband. Go to sleep."
Well, he gave him the head. He didn't,
Oh yeah,
he
no,
gave
he
him the
wakes
headband
up with the head.
already.
Yeah. But
And he's
Zach,
like holding it in his sleep because he misses him.
right, and Zach wakes up with the headband and he looks at it and he's like,
He's like, I
and-
didn't notice that
Right.
these giant words on the
Right,
inside
somehow.
say Beat Valley.
But you don't get to see see them at first.
Yeah, right,
And then
right,
it's like the
yeah, he
next
looks at it,
day,
he's like,
right? And we also glossed over my favorite character from my recurring character from the show is Belding. Belding is legitimately funny, even from like a good, bad, bad, good standpoint. Like I always laugh at his scenes with Zach because Belding, he just like Screech, we were saying, he sells the dumbness of the character really well.
totally.
But so like there's
Totally.
throughout the episode there's a couple good scenes where it's like Belding and Zach goofing about, including one where he literally says "I love you, Zach" and hugs him creepily, and Zach like pulls away from it. Yeah, Zach's got a lot of problems with adult men
Yeah.
in this
Fuck,
episode.
dude, I'm not kidding.
But so Belding is like giving a speech on the stairs, and he's like, "I know we're a man short, but like we're gonna make it." And then Zach appears, and they all cheer, and it's like, "Yeah, here we go. We're gonna do our big thing." And Zach, all the students run off, and Zach and Kelly are there, and he's like, "Hey, you know," and she's like, "Zach, how did you fucking like? Why did you figure you're gonna do this today?" And he's
some good advice from an old
exactly, and he shows her
Dude,
the
he met
headband.
2 days ago.
Yeah, this random surfer Native American dude.
Good
And he shows her the headband, and she holds it up. Beat Valley, and then they run off, and you never fucking find out if they beat Valley or not. And that's the end of the episode.
Right.
So, the reason why I picked this episode to start this bad TV thing is because of how brutally offensive it is. how much it misses the point of its own message, and in the end, it creates many more like alternate messages within its internal message for no reason. Like, why did they kill Chief Henry? Why did he have to die for this?
Yeah, why did there need to be loss? You know,
Like,
makes
it
no
feels like
sense.
they were like, shit, we've written this story, and we've got to this point, and the story's good. We like where we're at, but we need to add 7 minutes.
Yeah.
So we have to kill a character off in order to like give a conflict so that Zach can't run in the race for some reason.
Yeah.
And it's like, couldn't you just make him like sick and in the hospital and then he got better?
Also, like, I'm not a brainiac or anything, but like I guess I'm not a writer for Saved by the Bell or anything. I am a brainiac.
You are a brainiac
I am
then,
a
yes, if
brainiac.
you're not writing for
So-
Saved by the Bell. Yeah.
But like, so they build that whole plot line of killing Chief Henry and having the whole death and loss and grief stages
Right,
and everything.
right.
It's like, why couldn't you? And they don't show the Valley race. Like, the episode ends and you don't know if they actually beat Valley or anything. It's like, don't you think maybe they could have, instead of that, had the Valley race in it and then have Chief Henry there like rooting Zach
Right.
on and
Yeah,
have
or
him
like-
at the end like they're rooting for
Right,
running
right.
Zach? Like, wouldn't that be a better moral?
Yeah, I
Than
feel like
Chief Henry dies and then you don't see the race.
yeah. Yeah, it's definitely
You know, like, what the
strange.
fuck? Like,
I guess because like
they
there's-
introduce you to a cool guy, cut him out, and don't show you the main fucking point of the episode.
I think the intention is like along the lines of, well, that's not really what was important.
Well, yeah,
or
obviously,
something. Yeah,
you know,
but
like
so there's a lot of other great stuff in this episode,
some
including
references.
yeah. So at one point, we find out that Screech is actually a twink, which is
or
well
called a twink.
Yeah, Slater calls Screech a twink. And if you don't know what that is, that's a gay slang term for a gay man in his late teens or early 20s with a slender build, literally no body hair and no facial hair. Which I don't think at the time that was like as well known. I feel like most people listening probably have heard that. Like
100%,
as at
yeah.
least as an insult or as a gay slang term. But it's very jarring in the episode. I
All of a
laughed.
sudden, yeah, it comes.
I howled with laughter the first time I saw, because I totally missed it when I had
That might have
I
been
knew
the
of the episode and
one-
had watched it. But
That might have been the one that like really made me
yeah,
laugh out
like
loud.
and obviously that's not what Saved by the Bell intended with that line. I don't think, but
No,
maybe
who knows?
maybe Slater has something to tell us. But I mean, that would be pretty cool, honestly.
Yeah, Jesus.
Slater's hot, so. Mark Paul Gosselaar has said this was his favorite episode of the whole series in November 2016. However,
What?
yeah, that
he
was
said it was his favorite episode.
before November of 2016
What
when
a
he
fucking idiot.
yeah, when he apologized for the episode and called it insensitive to Native
Because
Americans.
someone called him out on it.
Yes. But maybe it has something to do with the fact that Zach, as a character, also is superhuman. Like Screech, with his apple slicing abilities. Zach, when he returns from the track meet at the beginning, he's still wearing his uniform and sweats, so it feels like he hasn't showered yet. Yet he is perfectly clean, with clean hair and no perspiration whatsoever.
yeah.
Very strange.
Yeah, of course he was, dude. Fucking television. There's some, like, we mentioned earlier, we were talking about some, like, TV references.
Yeah,
or,
there's
like,
several.
there's a bunch of them in there. You mentioned the Soul Train reference
Mhm.
when Lisa refers to her ancestors. That she says that they referred to the Underground Railroad as the original Soul Train. So that's obviously a reference to the
Yeah.
Soul Train, the TV series.
Yeah.
Miss Wentworth refers to Zach as like Tonto at one
Mhm.
point, which
And
is
I'll-
probably a reference to the Lone Ranger, but
Yeah.
like
well,
that's,
definitely. I think
yeah.
Kimasabe is too, because that's
Yeah,
what
right,
Tonto
true.
calls the Lone Ranger.
right. So that's there.
Mhm.
And then when they're in like the little like diner, like whatever, like
Yeah. Oh, what do they call? Oh my God. Yeah.
it's basically the same thing that where they
The
hang out in
spot.
like that
Yeah,
70s
oh,
show.
yeah.
Like where fucking Mitch Hedberg works. You know, it's like the same kind of,
Exactly,
it's the
yes.
same kind of fucking like
oh my
sitcom
God, I
location.
forgot about that.
So Slater and Jesse are talking, and Slater refers to Jesse as driving Miss Dizzy, and then that's obviously driving Miss Daisy, 1989, which is a pretty close reference. Like that's a pretty, I mean, episode 1990. I think came out in 1989. They're
Right?
quick
Yeah,
to.
quick. Well, it was big at the time.
Yeah,
It's
true.
I
Right,
just remember
right.
the Max. The Max. That's the name of the place they hang out.
Oh, okay,
Yeah,
okay.
The
Cool,
Max.
Cool. Yeah.
Um,
So yeah, the That 70 Show place.
And I'd like to just, as we wrap this up, I want to run over some of my favorite and least favorite quotes. We have, of course, Zach saying, "Me, Zach Morris, me smoke peace pipe," and I bet not in the voice I'm doing right now.
Yeah, it's bad.
And then Kelly says, "Zach, I don't think that's funny."
Oh my god.
Yeah. We had
Not
obviously
good.
the original Soul Train line, which we've been over. The line I said about the Zach, I haven't seen you run that fast since the time you stole Cindy Zeffirelli's bathing suit.
It just
Ouch.
slips that in there like.
That one, you could dig into that one. Where, like, was she wearing it when he stole it? Like, was she naked in the? She wet. When, like, was she in the
Yeah.
shower? Like, what
Right,
is
yeah.
going? Zach is a bad
There's
man.
layers. There's
Yeah.
layers. Zach and Chief Henry is like their first interaction when he walks in the door. He's like, "I'm Zach Morris. I'm from Miss Wentworth's class." And Chief Henry goes, "Oh, the kid who thinks he's part Indian with that blonde hair. You must be from some Malibu surfing tribe."
And it doesn't have it here, but then I think he goes, "Surfs up,
Yeah,
dude."
he throws
too.
up the
Like,
shaka. Yeah,
definitely
exactly.
shows the shaka. Yeah.
Oh my god. And then Zach also, another Zach and Chief Henry one. Zach goes, "Why couldn't the white men have gotten along with the Indians?" Chief Henry goes, "Why can't the Arabs get along with the Israelis? And why can't I get along with my ex-wife?"
Right.
It's like,
And he does say Arabs.
yeah,
yes.
that's the only reason I said that.
That was like, yeah, exactly. That was like so popular in the 90s. I feel like there were so many 90s movies where people said that. Like,
yeah, not a good thing.
No. It always reminds me of that. Remember that video from like the early days of the internet of the guy talking about Lucy's? Talking about like the fucking things on the cars. You know what I'm talking about. Talking about the fucking the whoop woo like on the back of the cars.
yeah,
and then
yeah.
he starts talking about going down to the Arabs. Like it's
Yes,
the greatest.
dude. Oh my
If you don't know what I'm talking about, you have to look it up. It's like about the woo woo, and it's a guy giving the greatest like television news interview of all time.
Holy shit.
It's fucking fantastic. But that's what I always think of when I hear that, because one point he starts talking about how you go down to the store and get a Lucy from the Arabs.
Oh
and
my
it's
fucking
beautiful.
head, dude.
It's amazing. Oh, so
Yeah, so that's
that was
that's
that
a bad episode of TV, you know.
On this, so the scale for this is going to be on how bad it was.
Oh, we're gonna
So,
do rankings
How
on
many?
these.
Yeah. So we're gonna rank this on a scale, same scale, but it's reversed. So a scale 1 to 5, how bad it is. 5 being egregious beyond levels of human watching. 0 being it's not offensive at all.
4.
You're gonna go 4? Yeah, I was gonna say 4.5.
Yeah.
You say 4.5. It's almost in what will be the canon of awfulness.
Yeah. It's not unwatchable.
No.
You know, like it's brutal.
Yeah.
But it's not like
Yeah, I'd say it's so offensive in certain areas that it's close, but the fact that they try in other areas, like I feel like the intended message comes off wrong. Like it
right.
could
Well,
be
a lot of the offensive parts of it are not like they're not overtly racist. You
Yeah.
know? Like they are, but they're not like they're not projected from a character implying racism.
Well, and like
you know?
it's also like like we said before, the progressiveness of 20 years ago.
30.
Like oh my God.
Sorry.
Yeah,
I didn't mean
30
to
years
do that.
ago.
Yeah,
Yes.
that episode came out 30
I'm
years
gonna say that
ago.
was a typo.
Yeah.
But yeah, no. Yeah, exactly. But that's what I'm saying. And
There's a glitch in the system.
looking at 1990 and 2020, it's really easy. And I think that the little points like we mentioned, the class being like, oh my God, when Zach shows up with the headdress and shit, and the fact that it's about, it's attempting to take something that is really bad, which is white people who pretend or have been told that they have Native American ancestry, when that would be a really bad thing to have if you are like super white, because I mean that only implies one thing.
Yeah. Right. Yeah.
So like, but at the same time, I feel like, again, in its context, looking at it as, again, a TV show, not reality, not real people, it's not 5 just because it tries so hard to represent its themes realistically, but it does it in such a bad way that it comes off more stereotypical than it should, you know?
Right, exactly.
And a little bit of tweaking could lower that score. But it is so offensive, it still feel like I have to put it real close, you know?
100%, yeah. I mean, yeah, like I mean, I would lean towards 4.5, but I'm rocking it on a 4 just because, like I said, I don't think I don't think the writers sitting there were like, let's be racist as fuck. It's just a 30 years ago time. It's tough to.
As of right now, is this the worst television episode of a show you've ever seen?
Off quick memory, maybe, yeah.
Maybe? Wow,
Yeah,
okay.
like,
I'm going to say no, but...
I'm just off of right now. You know, I'm assuming, like, if I sat and thought about it for a little bit long, because you didn't ask me this question earlier.
No, I didn't.
And I had no time to prepare and, like,
you.
think about stuff like that. So, like, to immediate memory, no. I mean, to immediate memory, yes. Just because maybe the worst ones I've nixed from my head, you know. But there's something in there.
Yeah, definitely.
You know, we'll get to them.
All right, so that means curtain down.
Yeah. We're also going to
Running
cover, like,
Zach.
good TV, too.
Yeah.
Though.
Oh, yeah,
Just
yeah.
so you guys
We
know,
definitely
we're-
could.
Yeah.
But
But
at
we're
this
gonna-
point, the bad TV police have incarcerated Running Zach for the duration of 100 years in solitary confinement.
Yeah, goodbye.
Yes.
Yeah, goodbye. Handcuffs.
So thank you, ladies and gentlemen, for listening to this inaugural side episode.
Yeah, if you guys have any recommendations
Definitely,
for, you know, we'd love to hear what you think is like a really shitty, and it does, you know, it doesn't have to be.
It could be good too. Yeah,
it
no,
could
we
be
want
good, it could
we
be bad,
want
but it could
to
be
surprised.
it could be bad in any way.
Mhm.
You know, it could just be like really shitty acting and shitty writing.
The one thing I want to like stipulate is that try hard if you are suggesting that it's not something that's super story arc. It's something that's more episodic like this, where we can jump right in.
I never watched Saved by the Bell.
Right, but you can jump
so-
right into the
yeah,
episode.
Exactly,
You get all the characters, you get the theme, boom, let's
yeah,
go.
so,
You know,
yeah, don't make me watch a whole fucking season of a show just to
right.
watch one shitty
Or
episode to
I mean,
talk about it.
if you give us an episode of Breaking Bad, like I've seen the series, but like if you give me one episode in the middle of it, I'm sorry, that's too. I'm just picking that out of random air.
Yeah, basically more like
I need to watch the whole series to
sitcom-y
understand it,
kinda.
and I haven't. Then I don't want. And then I don't want to cover
a lot
it.
more
so.
more like sitcom-y or even like think like some like Star Trek kind of
cartoons.
stuff. Like, cartoons
obviously,
are great for that. You'll know.
Right.
You'll
And
understand.
as always, like, share, subscribe. You can follow us on YouTube. You can follow us on Facebook. You can follow us on Instagram. I've started doing some streams on Mixer.com, so you can check out those too. But those are more for other people who don't listen to try to grab them. But if you do want to check them out, they're there. I run them every once in a while, so you can follow me. It's Mr. Simon Belmont on Mixer.com, from Castlevania. But yeah, for the most part, just again, thanks for listening. Thanks for watching.
Thank you so much, guys.
Yeah, good night, good luck, and go fuck yourself.
Fuck you.
Bye.
Hey, are you ready for the big meet tomorrow? I hear Valley's shaking in their Nikes.
I'm not running. Ever since you died, it doesn't seem to matter.
Sounds like you got a problem. Oh, I gotta go. I'm being fitted for wings. Why Running Zach?
Goodbye, Chief. And thanks for all you've done for me.
Rest well tonight. Remember, the answer to your problem is in your hands.
My hands? What about my hands?